Well, it's top of the hour here, so why don't we get started? Welcome everybody to What Keeps You at... Gee, I kind of first time I've actually missed that. I can't believe it. I stumbled on the name of our show here. What keeps you up at night? Entrepreneurship during challenging times. My name is Colin Weston. I am the community leader of Startup Vancouver, which is one of over 40 chapters of Startup Canada across the country. And Startup Canada is the voice of the 3.5 million entrepreneurs in Canada. As you can see from the sign behind me, what we do and why we do it is about connecting entrepreneurs. As a nonprofit group of volunteers of entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, that is what we do here, is to provide entrepreneurs the best chance of success through connecting them to each other, to resources, to our events and other events. So that is what we do. And today is no exception. And what we do on the show here is to connect you to inspirational, educational, and also fun stories here with our awesome, diverse guests. And I'm going to share the screen here quickly and run through what we have to go for everybody today. Reza, you're always my bellwether. Can you see that, my friend?
Yes.
There we go. So the first thing I'm going to do here is introduce my two fabulous, as I put here, curious co-hosts. I think that entrepreneurial trait we all have of curiosity. So first, hey, I wanted to introduce Maryam Mobini, my co-host here, who will be speaking to Paul here. So Maryam, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. I'm really excited to be having this conversation today.
Awesome. Good to see you, my friend. And Reza V, you're bringing the energy as you always do. How's your week gone? How are you doing there, my friend?
I'm doing okay. I've got to move to a new office type of situation, and during COVID, it's hard to do all the moving. Nobody's helping you, so that's what I'm going through.
Well, hopefully you managed to do that in a socially distanced and safe way. I'd offer to help, but I guess I get off the hook this time because with COVID, I can't quite do that yet. So hey, Reza, once again, let me know. I'm going to click on the screen. Let me know. Do you see our beautiful cats hanging in there?
Yes.
All right. I finally got the technology working after failing for the last month here. So this little segment we say, or we call, how you hanging in there? So I just want to say, everybody out there during COVID, I know we're all getting locked down a little bit tighter across the country. So just be gracious and respectful and patient with others, and especially with yourselves. And I know that Paul is going to be talking about mental health awareness, not only for entrepreneurs, but for everybody. So this ties into this of making sure you're taking care of yourself also. And just want to say that if you lead with love and kindness and gratitude, we will weather this COVID storm together. So that's what we love to do here, is just lead with kindness, lead with love, and lead with a little bit of fun. So Startup Vancouver, if you don't know us yet, we are most active on social media. That's where you can find all the good things that we're doing, our events, other ones that we co-present, and also that we promote across the country and in Vancouver here, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, and our LinkedIn community page, and also with our YouTube channel, where we then post afterwards every recording of every single one of our episodes. This is episode 36. Crazy, hard to believe. We've got 36 now in the can. We're about to after the show finishes here. And hey, if you go there to see now over our other 100 guests that we've had on here for their amazing stories, while you're there, why don't you subscribe to our channel? Show a little bit of love for us there too. So we want and love to make this an interactive show. So if you have any questions for our guests after our co-hosts have a chat with them, please, if you're on Zoom today, in chat, put your questions there. If you're joining us on Facebook, in comments, and we will make sure that we ask those questions for you. And if you're brave enough and you want to, we can even open up the mic and you can ask that question yourself. So this ties in nicely with the conversation that Paul is going to have today, and that is with our charity partner that we're very proud to be affiliated with, and that is Jack.org. And Jack.org is a charity that is an advocate for mental health for young people and advocates for youth mental health. And they do this through this grassroots initiative to then empower young people and make them ambassadors for mental health across the country in schools and in society. And so far, we've managed to raise $700, a little bit more than that, through the show. We're very proud of that. And as my co-hosts know, if there's a donation, I do a little musical shout out at the end. And today is one of those days. We've got a donation, so I will be doing that later. So today on the show, I will be ending it with a conversation with Abdullah Snobar, who is the CEO of DMZ Ventures, affiliated with Ryerson. As you can see here with what I'm wearing here, wearing my Ryerson colors. I'm a Ryerson alum from the architecture program, very proud of that. So I have that connection. I've had the pleasure of meeting Abdullah, I think it was 2 years ago when Ryerson was out here doing a bit of a junket tour in Vancouver. So it's great to catch up with him. In the middle here, we have Reza, who is going to be having a conversation with Emily Foucault, who is I pronounced your name wrong, Foucault. See, I knew I was going to screw it up, Emily, there. Yeah, and I asked you 4 times to pronounce it, so I quadruple fail on my part. I apologize there, Emily. So looking forward to that conversation. And to get us started here today, Maryam is going to have a conversation with Paul Marlow. So I'll stop sharing the screen, and I'm going to turn it over to my good friend, Maryam and Paul. Oh, Maryam, you're on mute. You made the rookie move, my friend.
Well, as I was saying, but you couldn't hear me. So thank you, Colin, for this. And Paul, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Maryam, Colin, the team, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. This is my first non-mental health advocate, strictly with a mixture of business involved. So I'm happy to be here.
I think a lot of our audience, a lot of entrepreneurs are, struggling as well with, mental and emotional health and trying to juggle the entrepreneurships and journey with that. So it's really great to have you here and, hear about your journey that you started 6 months ago. If you could tell us a little bit about how you got started and what made you come up with the name and, Never Alone. So if you could tell us a little bit.
Definitely. Definitely. So as you said, 6 months ago, essentially Never Alone got launched, my business. And that's an amazing part. But really to get to that point, 2018 was when my father passed away from cancer after fighting Parkinson's disease for a year. And essentially throughout that time fighting Parkinson's disease, his body just slowly started deteriorating. And all that I saw every week or 2 weeks when I went home was this man that I used to know become this person I never thought I would see. He was always so youthful and young, and he looked 50. When he was 50, he looked 30. When he was 60, he looked 40. When he had Parkinson's at like 70, he looked 90. And it messed with me mentally more than I thought it would. And then finally, a blessing, he passed away from cancer, which kind of, because at the end of it, he wasn't recognizing us. There was nothing of the guy that we knew. And that hit me even harder than I thought. So how I came to this position today is I started talking about my downtimes on social media instead of just showing the highlights of the good. And that is really what started Never Alone. It was showing the honest, real truth about what life is going on and not just showing your highlight reel on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it may be. So yeah, I shared stories of me crying, missing him. And then I shared stories of me getting up in the morning and going back to bed right away because I was depressed. But then I shared a story of me getting up and doing something positive and be like, you know what, I can do this. And then I would try a few things, like created a morning routine. I started working out differently. I started looking at my food differently. And then after I figured out how that worked for me, I shared it on my social media to help other people if they needed it. Just giving my take from it. And then I started getting DMs from people and people I didn't know. And I was like, well, this is kind of neat. And then I just built up from there. I thought, okay, people are listening. What can I do to help them? But the real thing was, it was helping me. It was giving me a focus, a purpose. And it was kind of, I didn't want to fail them. But first of all, I didn't want to fail myself. So I used their motivation and them looking up to me to motivate myself. And then about a year ago, I'm like, I got something here. There is a way I can help more people. There's a way I can help myself more. And I came up with the name Never Alone. And I came up with the hands with the help of some other people for my logo. And I'm like, let's see what I can make of this. I've never created a business before. I've never fully created or seen the potential in what I can do. I've always been too afraid to get to that point. I've always found anxiety. I've always found something that would make me stop, which is kind of weird because I'm a 6'7" athlete. I got drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays. I went to school in the States. I had everything going for me, yet I was afraid of a lot of things and I was fearful of a lot of things. So this journey to create Never Alone and start a business was my way of stepping outside my comfort zone. And now it's 6 months live. I'm creating mental health help content is what I like to call it. When I was depressed and down, I was down like 2 years. I didn't really find any happiness. Like nothing made me happy. I got like a job doing a commercial and I made like $15,000 in 4 hours. Like there was no joy. I was like, okay, what's next? Like nothing gave me excitement. So when I was there, I was looking around and there are a lot of mental health communities out there, a lot of businesses with big brands. There are a lot of advocates. And I missed the connection between 2020, or at the time 2019, social media and mental health and helping people. Like I didn't see it connect through a lot of these areas. Either they were a big brand and there wasn't the personal connection because they were so big or government or whatnot. Either they were a smaller individual, kind of like me, but they really niched down in one area, which is great. It worked for their people, but there was a lot of the general public that I just didn't relate to. Just a regular guy off the street. And I know it didn't relate to regular guys, girls, whoever who don't associate with being depressed and have anxiety, but know it pops up at some point in their life, but they're not willing to share it. I felt those people just wouldn't latch on to those businesses and those advocates because it was too mental healthy. It was too much in this lane. So I thought, why not make my own lane? Make something so I can talk mental health, but I can still model. I can still be an athlete. I can still swear. I can still talk about the stuff that really messes with me. And I can still all do these things. But at the same time, I can relate to these people like, you know what, I get that. I came here for that 5%. I'm staying for the other 95, but I came here for this. So that is where Never Alone is at and growing, and I'm here. Thank
you for your authenticity and sharing your story, and being so transparent. And it's definitely not easy. I've experienced it, so I relate. Dealt with like major social anxiety and depression and all that. So I want to take you back for a moment and to see if this resonates with you. And I want to know that how you were able to snap out of that moment, when, for example, you get tunnel vision, everything would go dark, you're just sitting there, no motivation to do anything, you're just like really down. What made you, get out of the bed and do things? Like what were you doing every day that slowly you got back to? I know it's not something like one day you just get up and you're like, oh, I'm fully good. And, I'm talking about the whole mind, body, spirit, training. It's about little things that we do every day. So what were the little things that brought joy back to your life, and in those moments, and how were you able to snap yourself out of that rumination, the inner critical voice that keeps going and all that?
Ooh, no, it's a great question, because we all have it. Now, like you said, there's nothing that snaps out of it, and that's true. And you, me, everyone have to realize what situation we're in and what the outlying factors are. Are these things coming in from someone else, or coming for you, or for work, or from food? Like there's a lot of things, but in general, for me, it was creating a win. It was finding a way to create a very small win that I could get in that day. That just might be like a fist pump, like that small. Like as much as I read a 20 pages in a book that I've been wanting to read, and it's about something to do with fitness or health or something in the thing. And then creating that win, but then being like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do the exact same thing. I can get that win again. And for me, those wins that I first started to do when I was in a down place, like I didn't work for a month. When I was in that spot, I'm like, I need to change this because I can't be like this when I'm 50. And it's not changing by not doing anything. So mine was my morning routine. And that first win was getting out of bed. That second win was going into the shower. Usually the first two wins would happen easily, and the third win of getting my hot lemon water didn't come as easy at first. So after 5 minutes, I'd go back to bed. But the third day, when I did get that hot lemon water, I would then pull out my journal and go through it. And those would be, so 1 win, 2 win, 3 win. And within 20 minutes, I could have 5 wins. And as time grew on, those days became easier. And I looked down, and 3 months later, I had a 60-minute routine down where I could do it. I know I could do it. Now, it didn't mean I was better. It didn't mean everything was all right. But like, I could look back at noon or that evening or sometime be like, I did what I want to do that morning. I did what I want to do today. I did what I want to do yesterday. All right, what can I do tomorrow to give myself one more win to make myself get ahead? And then that was it. And that was it. And now, like, my win is never alone. My win is what I'm going to do for Christmas sales. Like, these wins grow.
Right.
And you can achieve so much more afterwards. You've seen it once you got comfortable with them.
Yeah, so you got your behavior sequence, morning behavior sequence down. And when you're talking about winning and celebrating, how did you celebrate those, those small wins to bring about, so you started rewiring your brain that way, right? I mean, what did that look like? How would you celebrate?
I think it's gonna be different for everyone. For me, because my athletic background with training and working out, like, I knew what a small win was in the gym. And it's like, I'm not going to go shout it to the world every time. So for me, just knowing that I completed that, it was like a checklist in my head, like, okay, I got that. I'm confident I can do that again. I'm confident I know what is needed in those steps to create that, and I have it down. So for me, that's all it is. I just mentally know that I can check that list off and go. But then, like, afterwards, like, it would be like a fist pump, or my win when I really felt I had it, it's me sharing it on social media and being like, hey guys, I did this thing that I probably told you about when I was failing, because I like to use the word fail. We all fail. We shouldn't be afraid of failing. But I failed so many times, and today I won. And then I failed so many times, and I've won 30 days in a row. And that's letting the people know, but at the same time, me getting out of my anxiety about sharing things to the world and making it real. And it made it real. It wasn't just me saying this for myself. It was making it real for the world to be like, and people would check in and be like, have you done this? Not regularly, but someone would say something like, yeah, I'm still doing that. That's when I was like, I won, when someone did that.
Yeah. And tell me about your community that you built around Never Alone. Some of the stories, if you could share some of the stories that stand out for you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it started with people DMing me when I was in the bad place, in that place, and just saying thank you. It's like me from Germany, someone from Germany saying this. I'm like, first of all, it's someone from around the world. It was amazing. And then it turned into just, showing up on my Instagram, my social media, coming to other places, and I calling you like my Never Alone community. But really where it's gone and what I'm most proud of is, first, Never Alone was me sharing my story. And my story helped other people, and it helped me get to this part. But I've been lucky enough to have other people share their Never Alone stories. And I think I know this is where everything is going to be taking me, in different version of sharing it and going through on the business aspect of things. But I just, like, little trigger warning here. I just had a girl who 6 years ago, sexual abuse, got raped, hadn't shared her story before. And she'd been following me for a year, and I said, anyone wants to share their story? And she said, yeah. And she wrote me a 1,500 word blog about the lead up to it, a little bit about what happened in it, so we could get a visual, and then her process after, and how she went to the trauma center and what happened there, and then how the people treated her and how she felt safe. and then everything after, and then throughout. And so I tried to get people to write Neverland stories are something that happened to you, that happens to most of us. But like, what can we teach someone else that will make it better? What can you give them information that might help them? And that one blew me away to share that. I just had a good friend of mine, Asante Houghton. He's in Toronto. He's a big mental health advocate. And he just wrote a piece on me called White People. Dear white people, why is your mental health so white? And like, that's what I want to do. I don't want to be this white guy that just shares. I want to help change the world. I understand other people's voices are more important to mine, but if I can use my platform to help share their voice and we can do it together, like, that's it for me. So there's a bunch of those on there that just blew me away that happened.
And thanks for sharing that. It was so brave of her, to come and share that story also. And is this all happening on Instagram?
Sorry, my earpods are old. So I'm sharing them. They're writing blogs, and I'm helping them create the blog into a better piece, visually and written. They send it to me. I lay the layout. I have a graphic designer who I work with, who I really want to bring on full time. She creates a drawing for the thumbnail for the banner that relates from the story into the banner. So when it's shared, people get that connection before they hop in. And then it's shared on my blog. And then I share it through my Instagram, Twitter, whatnot, Facebook ads. Eventually want to create, I want to be able to go talk to them and do YouTube stories versions with them. But obviously that comes in time with COVID, and also comes in time with money. So there's these things that are just the beginning, but yeah, that's where it's going to grow to.
Thanks for sharing. And I'm going to just open it up for Q&A and see if, any of our guests or co-hosts have any questions from you.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to start. Thank you, Maryam, and thank you, Paul, for sharing that. And I'm just so grateful that you came on today to share your story. And it takes courage every single time to have conversations like this and breaking the silence. And I'm very fortunate that through Community Futures BC and our co-friend who introduced us, which is fantastic. And that's going to lead into our monthly Can Startup Stories speaker event. And in January, for the second year in a row, the theme will be mental health awareness for entrepreneurs. And Paul, you are going to be one of the speakers, one of our 5 that's going to be sharing your personal journey and your story, expanding upon what you shared with us today, of course, here to a national audience. So yes, I cannot stress enough the importance for all entrepreneurs, for everybody in society, as Paul's touched on here. We've all been stricken with traumatic, events in our lives, and it does happen. And how we deal with that, and how we reach out for help, and how we help ourselves is so important. And you think we are getting much better, but there's still so much work to do. So Paul, I thank you for that. I truly do. And Reza, I wanted to ask you, are there any questions in chat today, or do you have anything that you want to add or ask Paul?
I don't have any questions, but thank you for sharing, Paul. I personally went through something similar, and I totally related with everything you said about your father. I had that with my mother, who went through cancer. And it's really difficult at times, and it's a roller coaster all along. It's not something you grieve with like 4 months or 6 months. It's something that for years it comes back and forth. When you least expect it, it just hits you like a brick wall, and then you're losing everything you had, like focus or whatever you're doing. What helped me, it's my 2 cents here, was that number one, somebody told me to schedule these grievings. It's not good to let it happen whenever, otherwise you're not gonna be productive in your day. So routinely, if it's not coming, something's wrong. I need to be grieving. If I'm not crying for 2 weeks, there is something wrong. I go and seek that sadness because I want to get it out of my system. And I love how Joe Biden says there will come a time that their memory brings smile to your lips before tears to your eyes. And that's so true. At some point that happened to me. And the other thing was that it's just, what do you call it? It's just when you have like some belief, whether it's religion or not religion, believe in yourself or something, it just pulls you through those tough times. It happened to me, and a lot of my friends were telling me that, you know, when you go through those tough times, a lot of other people that we look at, they break down easily. How come you went through it without breaking down? And I was like, it's just, I believe in something outside of myself that is giving me hope. So very relatable story. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Reza. I appreciate that also. It's good information.
And thank you, Reza, for sharing that. So Paul and Maryam, thank you for that conversation. That it just resonates with also me personally here, because we've gone through some personal tragedy also in our family here. And the therapist we have, who's now a very good friend of ours, he said something I just want to share. And that is, grief is the most patient emotion of any of them. It will wait for you. It may wait 5 minutes. It may wait a month. It may wait 20, 30 years. And in fact, we've had some friends, when we shared our story of what we've been going through, it triggered things in them that they haven't dealt with, or that grief has just been buried for decades. So grief is a very patient emotion. Like Reza said, yes, be intentional and schedule it for that, but also sometimes you just need to let that kind of flow through you and wash over you. And that's part of the human experience. And hopefully us talking about this today will make everybody else feel a little more comfortable with what they're dealing with in life. So thank you again, both of you, for that conversation. So next up, Reza, why don't you stay there? And now we have Emily Foucault. See, I nailed it this time, who is the CEO and founder of ThinkHatch out of Toronto. So Reza, I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend, for our next conversation.
I'm excited about marketing every time there's a conversation around marketing. Emily, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to this, and also wanted to say, Paul, thank you so much for sharing your experience and what you're doing for mental health. And I think, Reza, when you and I talk a little bit about ThinkHatch, it actually ties in well to the entire mental health focus of the conversation. And so I'll let you continue, but
So
close.
Emily, you are the founder of ThinkHatch. Tell us a little about yourself, how you got into marketing, and how did you start ThinkHatch?
Sure. So going back and talking a little bit about Paul and his story of mental health, and really looking at the silver lining and how he could help others, quite honestly, that is why I started ThinkHatch 3 years ago. And to give you context and background, I had over 12 years of experience working at some of the largest global marketing agencies, Hill & Knowlton, which is the largest global PR agency, MediaCom, which is the leading media buying agency globally, and Rosetta Interactive, which is digital down in the US. And after 12 years of being in the industry, and in an industry that is very demanding and working at the leading agencies, I burned out. I took time off. It was about a year and a half that I took time off to focus on myself and to get myself mentally fit, so I would be ready for my next career move and what that would look like. When I started to get mentally healthy after taking that time off and not working for a good year and a half, and I started to feel better, and I really looked at marketing strategy and sales are without question my skill set, but I was never going to work at another marketing agency again in my life. And I knew if the agency model was broken for me, it had to be broken for other people. And so that's when I realized there was a really big need to support startups with providing them with senior leadership insights and experience and knowledge from all of the years of accumulated experience that I had gathered. And I wanted to work with startups and to help them scale their company when they need, at the beginning of starting their business. That's when it's most critical to receive that senior thought leadership. And so I set out to create a company, not an agency, not a consultancy firm, but really a bunch of founders, experienced founders, that come together, and we support startups with going to market. And what that looks like is over the 3 years, I founded ThinkHatch in 2017. And over the 3 years, our company has really evolved into having 2 different divisions of the business. So to give you context, our Think division is really where we operate as more of a consultancy for startups. So that's where we help to build out the business model, define the monetization structure, look at what operations they need to support that, and then look at the last part of how do we create demand through a growth marketing strategy. And it's at that point that we're able to identify how much investment a client will need in order to make the plan come to fruition. And that's where we support them with seeking and securing funding. And then at that point, once the funds are secured, they hop over to our Hatch division. And that's where you can think of it as a tactical marketing execution support. So in-house, we work with our clients on public relations, social media management, branding, some digital elements, and paid marketing. And on our Hatch side, that's really where we bring in a lot of, we operate almost like a freelance model, but with an agency level process to ensure that the quality that we're outputting is top quality. And really, I've structured it, and we could have a whole segment about this and why I've structured it the way I have, but it's keeping mental health in mind. I encourage all of our people on the team to be having another role outside of ThinkHatch. We would never structure a business to have one revenue stream, and I don't think we should be applying that to people. And so I truly encourage them to have other either businesses or charities or involvements that they have outside of what they do for us. Another thing I want to touch on, Reza, is just how we're structured from the a time management perspective, because that is also something that I put in place to ensure that mental health is at the forefront of how we operate. And so we don't work on a 9 to 5, 40 hours a week and hope to get more than that out of our team. We don't do that at all. We work on a per project basis, so an hourly retainer basis. And our team takes on projects that they personally have the capacity to take on. So before any new project, we say, team member X, we need X amount of hours allocated towards this project over X amount of months. Do you have the capacity to take that on? And it allows them to assess what they have personally going on and if they can commit to it. And if they can't, they're very open and transparent about it. And we pull from our pool of other potential resources. And we're able to work on projects and ensuring that all of our team is mentally fit, has the capacity to work on it. We don't work, as I said, 9 to 5. Half of our team, I think, truly works on evenings and in the night, as opposed to like, we're not on 9 to 5. Yeah. We have our standard status calls that are kind of shifted throughout the week. But that is one.
Sorry, go on.
No, that's just one of the big pieces of how we are different than any other agency or consultancy firm or freelance model. We really, I saw what was a broken system in the marketing agency world. And I took the pain that I went through and having that mental health crisis and that burnout, and really tried to make a change and looked at the opportunity within the startup world. And really that's how ThinkHatch has come to fruition and how who we are today.
Now it's great to hear you are putting together a sustainable model for the business, so you don't get anybody burnt out, and over a long time they're passionate about what they do. And end of the day, marketing is a creative work, so an environment like that helps them to be more creative. One of the challenging things I've came across with other agencies is that it's really hard for an agency to convey the value of strategy and the brain behind the work. Everybody focuses on with the results and campaigns and the tangible stuff they can see, and they want to value that. I love how your website really focuses on the fractional CMO part and the strategy part, because it's really important for people to understand the biggest value of marketing is the brain. Everything else is cheap. You can get it on Upwork. You can really convey the message to a graphic designer and get what you want. The brain is the valuable part. And I love how throughout the website, you can really see you guys are positioning yourself to be that fractional co-founder, fractional CMO that is really aligned with the founder. Now, are you guys focusing between these two? Which one are you focusing more? Are you guys focusing on the CMO part that is pitching to investors and trying to get startups get started, or the execution of the marketing towards their customers? Because it's two different audiences.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we actually have the company split into two. So we have Michelle, who leads and is our managing director of the Hatch division. And then we have various consultants that we bring in on the Think side. And what typically happens is if we don't start with a client on strategy, and let's say they start with us on public relations, we'll help them with public relations or social media management. And what ends up happening is we have conversations where the client is saying, this isn't driving results. And the conversation always comes back to, this is normal, we hear this, let's understand your strategy. And they typically don't have a strategy in place. And that is exactly why I've built this company, is so we can work as an extension of their team and say, what are your goals? Where do you want to be? How do we need to position you? How are you different? Where is the market fit? What market research have you done? Have you even validated this potential market opportunity? And so we almost build the trust a bit on the tactical elements. And then what ends up happening is we really start to work with them as partners and as a team and as strategists. And we pull out a lot of these thoughts, and founders, what they typically have is what I call shiny object syndrome. They have ideas all over the place and they want to follow all the trends, but again, without a strategy, they don't know how those trends or tactics fit into their strategy and understand how those tactics will then impact the business to drive revenue or growth. And so when they ask me about a trend that they should be looking at or are looking at and thinking of considering, I always go back to, what is the strategy and how is that going to impact? And the more often I ask that question, the more they realize how important the strategy is. What it also helps them to do, when I think about what keeps founders up at night, it's a lot of not knowing what path they're on, and they haven't defined that strategy, and they don't know if they're building $1 million company, a 10 million, or 100,000, and they're all okay. They all need a plan though. And I think a lot of the times our clients who come in, not on the Hatch side, but on the strategy side, have said to us, and this is a consistent message that we hear, is, I've done a little bit of this, I've tried a little bit of that, nothing's really working, I don't know what I'm doing or where I'm going. And that's normal. And that's exactly how we help clients to define what that strategy should look like, and really looking at building out that long-term plan and then creating micro plans to get to that long-term vision. And a lot of the times we distill the client and the founder's ideas and thoughts and simplify that into an actionable plan. And that's really where we excel, is on that strategic thinking, long-term, how do we get growth here, but then able to, in a very scrappy way, work on the tactical side with them, and then being able to look at those insights that we're gathering from some of the tactics that we're doing, and taking the strategic lens of how what is that piece of information telling us, and how do we use that as the next stepping stone of
I like
growth?
how you fill the gap between what this bigger strategy is towards investors and the health of the business to actually what the marketing for the customer should look like, or the strategy behind it, because there's millions of pros and cons between delegating everything to separate people and putting a specialist for everything, or having a one-stop shop for all marketing. There's all sorts of approaches, and I like how you are combining those two. I have a million questions, Emily, but I don't think I have time. My co-hosts are gonna start screaming at me soon. I want to end this with what's the biggest learning you had throughout the COVID, because it's a once in a blue moon kind of a event that we never had experienced. How did you navigate? What was the learning from maybe a story you have from one of your clients you want to share?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I'll actually bring it back to two learnings, because I think they're both really important. I mentioned off camera before we were chatting briefly with the panelists. So when COVID hit, I actually, it wasn't a mental health crisis, but my health was failing, and failing really rapidly over COVID. And the last thing I needed to do was take time away from the business when I needed to. It was a growth year for us, and I needed to focus on stabilizing the business as opposed to growing the business. And what I learned from that, and having being able to, I had to focus on my health. Until recently, I only have been working part-time on the business through all of 2020. And my learning is that your team is one of the most critical pieces of building your business. I was very quickly and transparently able to have conversations with the team to say, the process, our values, our clients. I need to take time away, and you just kind of need to take over right now. And I will be there to support kind of financially and making sure that those things are still moving. But I need to focus on me. And that was really hard to do in the middle of a pandemic when they also needed me. So that was one of the biggest things, is that team is everything. If they don't have your back, it will hurt you even more when you need to focus on you, and back to mental health and just focusing on health in general. So that was one of the biggest things. The second thing is having a plan and having a strategy. We had a plan in place. It was much more aggressive than we wanted it to be, than what we actually did because of COVID. That said, we were still able to grow the business. But because we had that plan, we were able to quickly make adjustments to a more modified or scaled down version of that. We actually did that with a lot of our clients as well. Prior to the pandemic hitting at the end of 2019, we had just built a strategy for one of our clients, and it was primarily an event-based company, but we did a lot of planning in 2019, and we had talked about having in place for the end of 2020 a community offering and a membership program and more content to be available. COVID hit, they weren't able to do any events, and they flipped the switch on their membership and their community and their content. And so because we did that entire strategy planning in 2019, knowing it was going to be launched at the end of 2020, they were able to quickly say, let's put the event business on pause. Let's launch this membership, and our client is thriving through 2020 because of that. And once things kind of come back to the normal, their event division will grow even and pass because of that that thinking and that long-term planning they wanted to implement. So having a plan and having a kick-ass team of supportive members is just
awesome.
Thank you
so much, Emily. I've got to open up to any questions if we can quickly do that, because we need time for Colin and Abdullah for their conversation. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Reza, and thank you, Emily, both. Just quickly, time for one question. I believe Maryam in chat, you had a question. So why don't you turn on your mic there and ask your question to Emily?
I actually think, Emily, you answered it, but I was like be referring more towards, founders who are also, you were talking about shiny object syndrome, and that made me laugh a lot. It made me think of myself and with ADHD brain and all that. And how do you get, have you encountered any founders with ADHD, and how do you get them to focus, and what are some of the tactics that you have?
So it's funny, I actually have ADHD, and I'm a thinker, and that's all I do is ideas. And I think about like, how do we build this bigger? How do we do this better? I'm a thinker. This is all I do. And I drive my entire team crazy. My fiance, my family, everybody, because, and even our advisors will always say to me, Em, you have a million ideas, but you need to really execute the ones that are most impactful. So what I do, and we have lots of clients that have shiny object syndrome. I actually had a chat last week on an Instagram live. One of my clients was on the live and I talked about it, and she said, oh, that's me. And it is her, she knows that. And I think we need to foster that, and we need to pull that curious mind out and those ideas out. So what we do is I'm a listener. I listen. That's how we build bigger. That's how we learn. That's how we do things better. So you need to have that time to listen, and pulling that out, and then going back to, does this make sense with our strategy? And I always blame it on the strategy. And quite honestly, as founders, we get a lot of opportunities to collaborate and to connect and to speak on different panels and that sort of thing. And I always say blame it on the strategy, because honestly, not all opportunities are the right opportunities, and just like trends, they're not always the right ones. So listen to the ideas and the thoughts and the trends, and see how other people are implementing and adopting them, but always come back to, is this going to move the dial for me? Is this going to make a change? Is this actually valid? Does the team have the capacity to take it on? Does the business have the capacity to take it on? So really just, I think it's still, we need to talk about it. We need to bring those thoughts out. But it's just, again, going back to that strategy. There are so many benefits to having a strategy and a plan in place. And it's for these reasons exactly.
You're right. That's a really good point. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you, Emily, for that. Thank you, Reza, for the conversation there. Yes, I have the same issues as most entrepreneurs do, is be able to focus down on things. I believe multitasking is a way to do many things poorly at the same time. So I'm a staunch advocate of unitasking. So I like to unitask whenever possible, if that's actually a word. If not, it is now. So there you go. You can hashtag that. There you go. So I also want to thank Startup Canada for introducing Emily to us here as part of this is a 7-week initiative we have. I don't even think my co-hosts know this, that we've done this. I reached out to them so we can make this a national show, to have entrepreneurs and people interested in connecting on a national level through startup communities also, to come on and give them a chance to share their story. And Emily's done that today. So Emily, I look forward to connecting you with you more in the future, and hopefully you get involved with all the good things we do across the country with Startup Canada.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. So now with Abdullah Snobar, who is the CEO of DMC Ventures. I think I knew it when it was the DMC, which sounded much more edgier and kind of cooler than DMC Ventures. Or are we calling it DMZ? I think we're calling it DMZ, are we not, Abdullah? Tell me about the brand there. And while we have you, why don't you not only tell us what the brand is, and tell us what DMZ Ventures is, how that ties into Ryerson, and your role there, please.
No, thank you, Colin, and I just want to give a big shout out to the last two speakers, Emily and Paul. You folks did great. It's definitely a harder act to follow in this case. My story won't be as exciting as yours and how you kind of brought it all together, but some clarity on the brand, Colin. I think it's probably important to do that. There are actually two entities that remain: DMZ and then DMZ Ventures. So DMZ is the nonprofit programming kind of component of the incubator and accelerator program that we actually support companies with. We're able to help startups, tech startups in particular, gain access to customers, coaching and mentorship, venture capital, and of course a pretty large community locally and globally, including other incubators, talent, government relations, PR, and the whole works. On the DMZ Venture side, it's the for-profit arm that's really focusing on being able to make investments in companies and be able to actually do exchange of services for equity, and be able to do things that we don't want the nonprofit being distracted with. To Emily's point, being selective in certain places. So we've kind of built up these two entities that are all they're all owned by Ryerson, by the way. So you and I both have one thing in common here, is that I'm also wearing.
There we go. There we go. Absolutely.
We're both Ryersonians. I'm actually a two-time Ryersonian. I did my undergrad and my master's at Ryerson. So it's so very proud to do that. But it's DMZ is a Canadian brand, a Canadian operation that's now working globally. We have offices in more than 9 different countries. Even in particular, actually in Canada, we have offices in Niagara Falls, in Calgary, even in small town Innisfil, believe it or not. So it's actually been a really beautiful kind of the ability to actually be able to expand out the model of what's been created at the DMZ, to take it to different parts of the country, different parts of the world, has actually been incredibly rewarding. So it's been a very that's just a quick overview I just wanted to provide, to make sure that there's still 2 brands that do exist.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that, as I obviously messed that up. And I had the pleasure of meeting you, I think it was 2 years ago, when you were with Ryerson and DMZ in Vancouver as part of your national tour. So we had a chance to connect there. You and I are still trying to kind of work through. I know COVID's throwing a bit of a wrench into that right now, but definitely seeing how we can then connect what you're doing at Ryerson and the DMZ, and even DMZ Ventures, with what we have going on here on the West Coast. So that's hopefully we can reboot that in 2021 here, once we can, as we said, once we can focus down and move that forward. So I want you to rewind the tape a little bit here. I know you touched on this a little bit, but give us, just like with any startup or anything that launches, what was the why? What gap or pain point or opportunity did the folks at Ryerson see with the DMZ to then launch that, to provide value? And how long ago did that happen for the launch?
Yeah, no, I'll start from there. Actually, it's we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, so we've been around since 2010. So it's actually it's kind of come a long way from where it was to where it is today. Initially, when DMZ kind of came to life, it was at the idea of a few students at the university and the former president of Ryerson, Sheldon Levy. The students went to the president and said, "Listen, we have ideas. We need some help in kind of putting them together. We don't think it's going to be an academic thing. We need it to be more practical and kind of rolling the sleeves up and kind of getting hands-on." So and I'm going to simplify the story here a little bit, Colin. But lo and behold, Sheldon, the president, then decided to say, you know what, why don't we build an environment where it kind of goes back to the roots of Ryerson, which was a polytechnic at one point, and being very practical in that sense. Why don't we build an incubator that can actually help people building companies? If they have an idea that they want to bring to life, can we build an environment, a safe space actually, that can expedite the process of putting that business together to get it from point A to point B, and then to Z. And I do say Z, by the way, sometimes. To Paul's kind of remark around being able to coach the companies and kind of get them to where they need to get to, but also appreciating the wisdom of failure, right? And there's a lot of that people don't necessarily kind of feel comfortable with. They're always resistant. They feel that if they're going to build a company and build a business, they have to be 100% successful every single time, and that's just not the reality of it, unfortunately. So how do you help normalize that? We're going to try to get you to a level of success, but if we can't, can we turn that failure, which there's got to be some wisdom in it, into another kind of success? And what I mean by that, most of our companies that fail, we end up kind of breaking them apart and then taking the talent from those companies and putting them into other companies at the DMZ, and then you'd be shocked to see what kind of talent and what kind of companies have come out of that kind of synergy and that kind of mixing and integration. So it's that's the concept there. It started off very much as being a student-focused space, only for Ryerson students, actually, in 2010. Come 2011, we opened it up for any student. 2015, we saw a massive jump in interest in the Canadian market on entrepreneurship and innovation and building out companies and startups. So we opened it up to the world, and we said there's no limitations about whatever age or kind of education you have. It doesn't really matter, as long as you have the grit to want to build a company and you have the right kind of starting points and you have a minimal viable product, you're coachable, and it's in the tech space. We want to help you. So we opened up the space. It's been 10 years, and in 10 years we've been able to expand out substantially. And from our numbers, we've helped close to about 500 companies to date, they've raised close to $1 billion. We're actually just shy of $1 billion right now in capital, and with thousands of jobs created across the country and some across the globe even. So it's been a remarkable success from an idea that stemmed for students to now an opportunity and a space and an environment that's supporting anyone that can that has the ability to build and that fits the culture. And I should say, actually, one of the things that drives us and kind of gets us, the why, if you will, it's kind of described in our 3 values. And those 3 values that we actually have help us to determine whether or not we're going to do things, partner with certain organizations, kind of bring on certain people to the DMZ from a startup perspective, hire certain individuals. It's number 1, founders first mentality. Everything you do should focus on the founder before the PR and just the benefit and the marketing of it all and the storytelling. It should be focusing on the individual, him or herself, to make sure that we're actually there and the why is strong on that level, that we're not being, again, blinded by what's really in front of us and what can become the next big thing. The second value is really around equity over everything. So it's really making sure that we actually put a lens on the work that we do from an equity play. And one of the things that we're really focusing on today that we're very happy about is the Black Founders Initiative that we've been doing for actually about close to 19 months now. So this is well before the George Floyd movement, but we're happy to see the momentum that's picked up since that time. And the intention is to increase, the involvement of Black founders in the Canadian tech space by tenfold. So it's something that we're pretty ambitious about, and we've seen a lot of good wins. And finally, something that's quite broad and more of a mindset, it's actually be great. And that's actually, I'll show you the shirt that I'm wearing here. That's one of our our most call it the sexiest value that we actually have. People typically look at and they say, it's a mindset. You want to go in, you want to think about being great. It doesn't mean that you can't fail. Again, it doesn't mean that you can't try and kind of fall back and not get the help you need. We want to do all these things, but when you come in and you're going to be working in an environment and supporting people in an environment that have put their whole livelihoods on the line to build what they want, and because they believe in it, we got to make sure that we're on that same level, and we got to be great in the way that we think, the way that we act, the way that we support, and the way that we help build. So it's got to be that's the ecosystem that we're trying to build together.
I love all those things you just mentioned there, and thank you for that. I just wanted to ask you, just to clarify for entrepreneurs across the country, because this is a national show with a national audience now. So you do not need to be a Ryerson student or alumni, or even in the greater Toronto area, in order to reach out and see if the DMZ is the right fit for them?
Yep, yeah, you definitely don't have to be a Ryerson student or alumni. No affiliation to Ryerson whatsoever. If you think that you're at a level where you're coachable, you have a minimal viable product, you're in the tech space, primarily B2B, and you want some support, the DMZ is a good place to look into. Among so many other incubators and accelerator programs, by the way, Colin, there's so many good ones in Canada, but we're always happy to help. So feel free to reach out and check out our website. It's you can look at ryersondmz.com or dmz.to, and you'll get to the link as well. Because I just saw the question pop up about the link, so I'm just answering that. And then the other part, we're never just Toronto or Canada focused. We've actually always been pretty global in the efforts that we've kind of started. But now more than ever, actually, we're definitely not going to be just focusing on Canada. The fact that we've shifted our operations virtually for the time being 100% allows us and gives us the ability to do more with companies and founders that are not Canadian, but maybe have an interest in looking at Canada as a possible marketplace, or maybe even an expansion down the road once kind of COVID clears and whatnot. So it's open.
Got it. And I've seen you in action over the last couple of years, Abdullah, and you are a world-class connector, and you do it in a very authentic way. So I'm very curious to hear, it always is about the power of partnerships, whether you're a startup or whether you are an accelerator and an incubator. So can you quickly tell us, this will be I have lots of questions, but one last question I want to ask you before we quickly open it up here to my co-hosts, and then we got to wrap it up for today. But could you perhaps tell us in whether it's Toronto or even globally or across Canada, some of the partnerships that help propel you forward, that help you collaborate rather than compete?
Look, I think we've come to a place now where we're actually, we realize that we're never really looking at ourselves as being competitive or a competition. Again, that's the nonprofit mentality that we kind of go into. It's unbiased. What we do is focus on how do you build resources, and many of them that can support the individuals and the founders that need the help, to kind of get to where they need to get to. And I really mean it when I say that the beginning of any partnership that we ever look at really comes back to the individual and the people. Can we agree with the people's values, their mandates, sometimes the agenda, the overall agenda of what needs to happen. And a quick story on that I'll share in 10 seconds. My second week on the job, actually, 6 years ago now, almost, I almost had a massive win. Someone comes into the space and wants to donate $1 million to the DMZ. Here I am thinking, this is awesome. This is going to be great. What a way to kind of start my role as the head of this organization. Lo and behold, as I started to dig a bit deeper, I realized that individual wanted anything and everything under the belt and under the sun, and kind of decide who we hire and what we do and what we don't do. So I turned down the $1 million, and many people even at the university thought I was crazy. And I said, what we've created, and what we plan on creating in the next decade or even longer than that will be worth much more than $1 million. That we have to be significantly specific and picky on who we want to work with to allow these kind of environments to serve, Canadian startups in particular and help them grow. So, that's just a quick little nugget on that part. But partnerships are still, no matter what, the core of why we do what we do, and it's important to ensure that you find the right ones and you build the right ones and you grow on the right ones. And whether it's focusing on partnerships that are going to help with professional services, or partnerships on mental health awareness, and ensuring that founders realize that this is a lonely space, and as dark enough as it is, and then kind of adding COVID to it, it makes it even darker. That we have to provide these kind of environments and these kind of services, and the fact that you have to be able to just, again, holistically operate the space, and you can't do everything on your own. And there is a lot of perks in finding the right people to support. So I'll stop there, Colin. I know we're going over time, and I don't want to.
Okay. But thankfully, we're not a network show. So if we go a couple minutes over because we're having an awesome conversation, so be it. And today is one of those awesome conversations that we're having.
Colin, with that, I'd like to answer Hassan's question when you're done your spiel, if we can do that time.
Why don't you? Well, first of all, Paul, I definitely want you to do that. Maryam, Reza, did you want to jump in? Do you have any questions here for Abdullah? Abdullah, first of all, I want to say thank you, and hopefully you'll come back on the show a year from now, and because I really want to know what the 5-year plan is and all the potential you have with the DMZ and DMZ Ventures. But we'll hold that for now. And
sure.
Reza, Maryam, is there anything you'd like to add?
I'm happy to be in this show today because I'm looking for accelerators, so I'll be in touch with you right after the show.
And I just want to say that I'm really impressed that you didn't accept that offer. Like, good for you for staying true to yourself. That's awesome.
Thank you. And it definitely hurt, by the way. So don't think it didn't hurt. Definitely hurt.
It was painful.
And very quickly, Abdullah, we did that in the first year as well. It was a $1 million opportunity first year. It was a mental health partnership, and we turned it down, and it's always for the best.
I agree.
There we go. So I do have my musical shout out. I'm going to end the show before Maryam closes it for us. But before that, Paul, did you want to jump in? You wanted to answer Hassan's question?
Yeah, Hassan asked a question. First of all, thank you. Abdullah, I want to get an app out there for the mental health community at some point, so I would love to talk to you, definitely. He asked me, how do I realize the importance of this topic? Obviously, we all understand mental health is important, and the community, society has been talking more openly about it for 10 years, 15 years, let's say 5 years, who knows exactly, especially this last 6 months. I realized that it was important for me to do it like I do it, because when I was in my time and throughout now, I feel like people are very vanilla and safe and trying not to get into the cancel culture in mental health and saying the wrong thing and offending that one person who might be in one situation, but not connecting with these millions of other people who are in this other situation. So I was just like, F it. I would swear it on anyone else, but I won't swear here. And I'm like, I'm going to swear. I'm going to be this guy. I'm going to talk about everything I can. And I'm going to talk about stuff that I think are going to get that heart connection, that mental thing, and not just say it for the sake of saying it because I'm supposed to get a retweet or a share or a like. So I was just like, screw it. Let's just be real here.
Nice. Paul, thank you again for that and everything else you contributed here today. Before I sing, Reza, I wanted to mention, because you've got a couple events coming up here. So my friend, why don't you tell our audience what is going on with you over the next week or so?
Awesome. So I'm speaking in 2 events tomorrow, and both of which I'm super excited. One is regarding social capital. I'm a firm believer that you need to reach out and make connections, and it's today's currency that you need to have. I'm speaking on it for 15 minutes. It's a very cool virtual event program or software where you create your avatar and you freely go to the hall, the rooms and boardrooms, and you interact with people. And I'm speaking for 15 minutes, and in between you can talk to other people. I'll put the link down below. It's tomorrow. The other one is a branding marketing panel that my good friend Becky is talking about brands and marketing, and I'm in the panel discussion regarding branding. Again, I'll put the link below. It's Eventbrite, both of which are free.
Nice. And as I do for everybody here, all of our partners, everybody we love, Reza, you send me those links on social media.
Yes.
Put a little post together. Happy to share that, retweet that,
Yeah,
whatever you need, my friend.
good.
And we'll do that within the next 24 hours too to get that out there.
Awesome.
So see, this is my stall tactic for me not wanting to sing today. I don't know why I'm so shy. I never am, but okay, the time has come. So as I mentioned, we are deeply honored to have Jack.org as our charity partner. And anytime someone donates some money to Jack.org through Eventbrite for our tickets, I do a little musical shout out to them. And we do have a person today. So it goes something like this. Nice donation by you. Jack.org says, thank you. You are awesome. Daniel Saradu. Got that wrong. Daniel Saralu. Much better. Nice donation by you.
Awesome.
Oh, I got multiple claps. I got more than a golf. Last week I got a golf clap. Paul, that was like, I did, I don't know what other was. You played baseball, so we'll say it was the triple play. Like we actually were fooling around, right? We just had a triple play there. So thank you for that. There we go. So to end today's show, Maryam, could you please jump in here and close things for us today?
That was pretty awesome, Colin. Thank you for that. And I would like to thank my lovely co-hosts, Colin and Reza, and our guests, Emily, Paul, and Abdul, for being here today. All the information, your contacts and where you could be reached is going to be posted on LinkedIn, our YouTube channel, and also, on Twitter, Instagram. We're everywhere. And find us every Tuesday at noon and spend some time with us here. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Have
Bye.
a great week, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye for now.